Hello everybody and welcome to another One Piece chapter review, this time for chapter 1016. I know this chapter has brought on some mixed feelings from the fandom, some conflicting emotions and ideas about the quality of the act, life, hitting puberty, all those things. We start off with Ninja Cat and Zoro essentially replicating the same scene that we saw back in the Flower Capital with Nami and Shinobu. If you remember, the girls were spying on some officials that were having a conversation about a weapons trade. And so the guys found out and started sticking spears up into the attic. We open up at the Fire Festival, which is based on the real-life Japanese festival known as Toro Nagashi. And Toro Nagashi is basically the Japanese equivalent to the Day of the Dead. Some people believe that during this time, the spirits of dead ancestors can come back to the land of the living to pay the living a visit, and so some people send out lanterns up into the sky, or as Tenguyama Hitetsu explains to Toko, they also light bonfires. It's all kind of done with the hope that the dead spirits may be able to reconnect with the living. So I think this foreshadows two things. I think this foreshadows characters that are already dead making a temporary appearance by the end of the arc. I think they'll show up in spirit form temporarily via the help of a devil fruit power. We can see characters like Odin in spirit form, Yasui, but then knowing Oda, I wouldn't be surprised if he has characters like Pedro show up as a spirit as well, but then also Ace as well, because there was a lack of closure between Ace and Tama, and then we also know that Yamato and Ace knew each other as well, so I think Ace appearing would be really relevant for the end of this arc. And then Ryuma's spirit also has to make an appearance at some point here, because we know that one of the conditions for Zoro turning in Shusui was that he be taken to Ryuma's grave at a later time. I also think the Fire Festival could be foreshadowing to some of the scabbards actually really dying, like Kinemon for example. Let's say he actually does die. If he shows up as a spirit, he'll still have the chance to see Otsuru again. Same thing can happen with Kiku and Izo. If Kiku is actually dead, then the Fire Festival could provide an opportunity for the siblings to reunite one last time. Fun fact, we recently learned, thanks to an SBS, that Yasui is actually not Toko's biological father. He essentially found her and adopted her after her parents abandoned her. So again, it's that constant theme that Oda highlights of you don't have to be blood to be family. And again, the contrast between how the chapter opens with Toko thinking about her adoptive father, looking up at the sky, and then the chapter literally ending with another shot of the sky being split because of Yamato literally clashing against the biological bond between her and Kaido. If you remember back in chapter 1003, we got the numbers for the opposing sides, and back then those numbers were 27,000 of Kaido's officers versus 5,000 members of the Alliance. Obviously those numbers have since changed. According to the shamisen player with the eye symbol, there's been a loss of 5,000 soldiers, so that's 27,000 minus 3,000 on Kaido's side. That leaves us with 24,000, and then the Alliance has lost 2,000, so that's 5,000 minus 2,000 gives us a total of 3,000, but then Queen's shenanigans with the ice-only bullets downstairs ended up costing Kaido 4,000 men. So because of Queen's stupid little game, we can subtract 4,000 to the 24,000 that Kaido had, and add those to the numbers on the Alliance side, and so that gives us 20k versus 7k, and the worst part about this in terms of tension building is that we're not done yet, because these calculations are taking place right before Tama gives the announcement to the gifters to change sides and help the Alliance. So these numbers are still premature, because we still need to add on all of the gifters to the Alliance side. We get a shot of the frog that Momo used in the previous chapter to send out his message to the Alliance to continue fighting and wait for Luffy to come back. And the frog is staring at the hole that Shinobu made using her devil fruit power, and so the assumption here is that Momonosuke has fallen to his death, which of course we know is not true. Momo's gonna have to get over his fear of heights, turn into a dragon and fly in order to save Shinobu and himself. That's just a fact. I mean, it's a guarantee that that's going to happen at this point.
We find out how Zeus was able to survive by merging with the Climateact, and I have a question. You know how like in Thriller Bark, after Moria was defeated, all of the shadows inside of the zombies began going back to their original owners, right? After Moria was defeated. So is that going to happen with Big Mom here as well? Like after Big Mom gets defeated at some point, will the soul energy that she put into inanimate objects go back to its original source? Like in the case of Zeus, will Zeus go back to Big Mom after Big Mom gets taken out? Because if that's the case, right, then that means that Nami's going to need another power-up at some point in the future. Unless Big Mom comes back after being defeated and she's like, oh, don't worry, you can keep Zeus. Like if she becomes an ally or something by the end.
I really have to give props to Usopp here because, man, he's been taking these ulti headbutts like a champ. His skull got cracked at some point as a reference to Alabasta because of an ulti headbutt, and he's still coming back up. It's like that 2-year time skip really did do some wonders for Usopp's durability. I don't know if you guys agree with me, but on the surface, this sequence is supposed to be like a Nami moment, like, because she's the one fighting Ulti, it's like Ulti versus Nami. And yet, if you look at who's getting the focus, if you look at the way that Oda structures the panels and who the panels are about, this feels more like a Zeus and Usopp moment than it does a Nami moment. Zeus steals her spotlight in this, to the point where Nami feels like an extra.
I guess you could say that Zeus stole Nami's thunder. I think what makes this scene feel very different from Nami's previous fights is that before, the Climatact was an item. It was an inanimate object. It was a tool. And now the Climatact is a character. So if Zeus is going to stick around with Nami for a while, I think it's going to be very important that Zeus's personality doesn't overshadow Nami's during her fights. Like the scene where Zeus asks Nami for another name, and then Nami gives him another name, and Zeus just brushes it aside. So at first I thought that was really funny, because it's like, wow, that was kind of like rude of Zeus. But at the same time, after I thought about it a little bit more, I did think, wow, this is also kind of like diminishing Nami's authority in the scene. So it's a matter of not letting Zeus overperform or overshadow Nami. Not from a power standpoint, all right? That's very important because we know that Nami needs Zeus's power. We know that, okay? I'm talking about from a character standpoint because then it can get kind of confusing in regards to like, wait, like who's the main character here? Who does this fight belong to, really? That being said, there are a couple of things that I appreciated here. The first one is how Zeus asking Nami for another name reminded me of Mother Caramel, and how Mother Caramel had this little son, and she used to call her Pandora. But then when Big Mom got her power, the son kind of changed, and it became Prometheus. So I kind of liked how that was echoed here in this chapter with Zeus and Nami. I also really appreciated the bit of foreshadowing that we got prior to this moment back in chapter 1002 about how Zeus can move like a guided missile. Like if you remember back when the Supernova were fighting the Yonko on the rooftop, there's this moment where Big Mom uses this technique called Tenjin. And Tenjin is basically like this lightning bolt that kind of like flies around the battlefield, striking every corner. And at one point, it's about to attack Kid, and I think Kid kind of moves out of the way or dodges it, but then it kind of goes back to Kid. It actually chases Kid and hits him that way. So I appreciated that bit of foreshadowing that was there, and that was kind of used in this chapter with Zeus saying like, nope, you don't get to dodge me. So Ulti gets defeated that way, and it's a little bit bittersweet, I'm not gonna lie. Not just because, like, in my opinion, Ulti has one of the best designs in Wano. Like, she's definitely an A+ design-wise. But then also, back in chapter 983, Ulti was fighting Luffy, and when Luffy was about to go Gear 4th on her, before Yamato interrupted the fight by knocking Ulti out, Ulti was about to use this attack called Ulti Meteor something. And we never got to see what that attack actually was.
I think Bao Huang's announcement about 2 of the Tobi Roppo being defeated kind of gives it a sense of finality. It seems pretty definitive that Ulti and Page One are KO'd, which is interesting because the last time we saw Page One, we didn't get to see his face. He was just kind of stuck in the ground, twitching. And so this also feels like a victory for Big Mom. Big Mom being able to land that advanced Conqueror's Haki punch on Page One, and then also Zeus, who has part of Big Mom's soul. And then Big Mom had also done some previous damage to Ulti with her 3-part homie combination laser cannon. It's like Big Mom taking W's indirectly, and she's not even in the chapter. Turns out Usopp used his Midoriboshi. Again, just really cool seeing Usopp taking care of things, even after getting skull smashed by Ulti. He's like, the mic's all yours, Tama, since you're the walking plot device. Now, I hope that Usopp does something else in addition to incapacitating Bao Huang. One of the things that gives me hope about him having a future confrontation later on in the arc is that in this chapter, we didn't get to see any new attacks from Usopp. The Green Star Devil was the first attack he used at the bar with Nami post-time skip. And then his seaweed attack, Sargasso, which, by the way, Sargasso is the name of a sea in the Atlantic Ocean that is full of seaweed. We actually saw him use that attack against some boulders to stop them from crushing the Sunny as the Straw Hats were making their way to Fishman Island. So hopefully we still get to see some new attacks from Usopp this arc. I really enjoyed the exploding pine cones that he used against Page One. I would also like him to showcase his observation haki more during this arc, so hopefully he gets another opponent. We get a shot of all the Tobi Roppo that are left reacting to the news, with the exception of Drake. We see Black Maria. We haven't seen her in a while, and I think it's because, well, the last time we did see her, she had gone topless. Now, since Ulti and Page One have been taken out, and given how Oda has written things in the past, we can pretty much predict that we're going to start going up the ladder after this. So, for example, we're going to get Robin and Brooke versus Black Maria very soon, get that fight taken care of. After that, we'll get Frankie versus Sasaki, then Jinbei versus Who's Who. We still don't know who's going to take on Jack, but I'm assuming he'll be next after that. After that comes Queen versus Sanji. Then we'll get Marco and Zoro versus King, or just Zoro versus King, depending on what Oda wants to do with that. I suspect around that time we'll also get to see what's going on with Kid and Law versus Big Mom. And then finally we'll see Luffy take down Kaido to wrap everything up. Now, by the time that Zoro is back on his feet, by the time Zoro is ready to fight again, Onigashima should be either near the capital or at the capital already. I'm saying this because we saw Tengu Yamahitetsu there, at the capital, right? And we know that Tengu Yamahitetsu knows the secret behind being able to forge a black blade. And Zoro needs to learn what that is. He needs some kind of instruction on how to up Enma's rank. Because back when he did Ashura against Kaido, Kaido was like, whoa, you can use King's Haki too, huh? And Zoro was like, I guess? I'm not sure what you're talking about. So Zoro needs an instruction. He needs some kind of instructor like Tengu Yamahitetsu to tell him, this is how you forge a black blade. So he can do it and pull it off during his fight. But he can only do it once he's at the flower capital, because that's where Tengu Yamahitetsu is. Cut over to the live floor, and we see Queen twisting his neck like some kind of a snake for some reason. We see that Sanji still has not put on his raid suit, and then Beppo also hasn't gone Sulong form yet. I hope he meets up with Law and kind of helps him against Big Mom, but in Sulong form.
Then again, Big Mom did end up killing that bear accidentally back when she was 5. So if Beppo fights her, it'll be like Revenge of the Bear. Also, going back to the whole Ulti and Page One thing for a moment here, just the fact that, part of their design is them wearing masks. It's like, it's always going to be a reminder to us. Like, if you ever reread Wano, it's always going to be a reminder of what was going on in the world during the time of their introduction. It's like, these characters are wearing masks. They were designed wearing masks because of the global health emergency. So in 5 years, 10 years, or 20 years, it's always going to be a reminder that remains in the story. Now, a good thing about Ulti and Page One being defeated in the way that they were is that it keeps the power scaling consistent. I said it recently that if Page One had gotten up from Big Mom's attack, then that would have meant, that everybody fighting a Tobi Roppo or a Calamity that is above Page One in rank, that they would need something stronger than an advanced Conqueror's Haki punch to defeat their enemy. And again, as far as we know, Brooke, Robin, and Frankie, they don't even have basic Haki yet. So Ulti and Page One going down like this and actually staying down, it really does a good job at keeping the power scaling very consistent.
We see that Kaido has once again reached the top of the skull in his full dragon form, and then immediately after he just goes right into hybrid. So Kaido's definitely not playing around with his kid. Now what I'm curious about is Kaido going hybrid form because he wants to finish the fight early? Like he wants to finish the fight a lot sooner? Or is he going hybrid form because he knows that Yamato is just that tough? Because those are two completely different reasons for going hybrid form, and they say two completely different things about Yamato power-wise. We also learned that apparently Kaido chose Wano to be his base for a reason. So it wasn't just a coincidence that Kaido chose Wano to settle in. The first time I read that, I was like, is it because Wano is outside of the jurisdiction of the world government? Like, did Kaido get tired of being captured by Marines? And so he was like, I need an island where these people can't get to me. Because if I really wanted to clickbait this chapter review, I would probably write something like, Yonko Kaido is afraid of Akainu. Confirmed.
That actually wouldn't even make sense, chronologically speaking, because several years after Kaido had already taken control of Wano, Akainu was still a vice admiral. So yeah, the timeline wouldn't fit. So it seems like there has to be something else that's very special about the land of Wano. Maybe something in addition to the road poneglyph. Because yeah, I don't think it's the lack of world government intervention, because like if you look at the other Yonko, right, like Big Mom and Teach and Shanks, it's not like the government has interfered with them in their territory specifically. Maybe it's because Kaido knows that whoever wants to become Joyboy has to pass through Wano to get the road poneglyph, and so he's there to sort of test them out to see if they're worthy of becoming the next Joyboy. And Yamato says it in this chapter, Luffy will be Joyboy. And she should know because she read all of Oden's journal. And then of course the most important part of the chapter is when Yamato says, I am going out to sea with Luffy. Now, going out to sea with Luffy and being an official crew member of the Straw Hat Pirates are two very different things, right? So what does Yamato mean? Does she mean going out to sea in the same way that Oden went with Roger? Does she mean going out to sea in the same way that Law has been a companion for Luffy ever since Punk Hazard? Does she mean going out to sea with Luffy to have an adventure like the one that Carrot wanted to have? I mean, I already made an entire video extensively talking about how I think Yamato would fit in perfectly with the crew. What I'm saying is, okay, what does it mean when Yamato says, I'm going out to sea? And I guess really, when it comes down to it, it depends on what Luffy's decision is, right? If Luffy takes a deep breath by the end of the arc and says, Yamato, be my nakama, then it's official. I said this last week that we could use Yamato versus Kaido's clash to sort of scale Yamato to see where she would fit in power-wise in the crew. And so I was kind of excited when I read the chapter and it looked like they were about to clash, and then all we got was black hockey lightning from afar. You can't necessarily say that it's confirmed that Yamato has advanced Conqueror's haki, but if you look at the context, right, if you look at the fact that Kaido goes hybrid and he says, I'm not going to hold back, then it would make sense that he would be using advanced Conqueror's haki on his attacks, and therefore, in order for Yamato to be able to keep up with Kaido during that fight, during that clash, and that would mean that she would also need to use Advanced Conqueror's haki as well. I like how Yamato says, I know the legends. I know what people say about you, Pops. In a 1v1, always bet on Kaido. So I know I can't beat you, but I will hold you back until Luffy comes back. And so if Yamato's saying, I will hold you back, she should know how much work she needs to put in. Also, I think just her having basic Conqueror's haki would work very well with her Oden persona, because Oden had Conqueror's haki, but he didn't develop the advanced Conqueror's haki until after he went with Roger. Because when Roger and Whitebeard were clashing, Oden was really surprised. He was like, wow, they're not even touching. So he didn't even know what Advanced Conqueror's haki was at that moment. And then eventually he learned it and used it to scar Kaido with it. Because you kind of need to have Advanced Conqueror's haki to deal that amount of damage to Kaido. So if Yamato is supposed to be a parallel to Oden, where do you think she is in regards to her mastery over King's haki? I kind of wish the chapter would have ended with Kaido towering over Yamato, and then Yamato gradually transforming into her own Zoan form, and then having that reveal of what her Devil Fruit power is by the end of the chapter. Assuming she has a Devil Fruit power, it would have been like Dragon versus Tiger. So I watched the anime episode yesterday. I liked it so much I ended up watching it twice. There's a scene in that episode where Law says that apparently Luffy and Kid can't keep up with Law's Devil Fruit power in the rain. I guess it's because Law's room shields him from the rain and adds some protection. But yeah, I never thought about it like that. I never thought about rain actually working as a hindrance, towards Devil Fruit users. But it makes sense. This chapter was a very difficult chapter to review. I really don't know how else I could have done this review given the content of this chapter. I really don't know what else I could have done. I tried my best, guys. I really did. There's a pretty serious lack of tension in this act, which is why I think the act would have benefited from it ending already. It ending on a dramatic cliffhanger with Luffy being defeated and possibly one or two casualties. But instead, like, Oda has decided to keep it going. So if you notice in this chapter, the tide begins to shift in favor of the Alliance a little bit. And again, this is all happening before Tama even gives the order to the gifters to change sides. But overall, I thought the chapter was okay. And it's happened before, to me where like we have chapters that are just okay, and then the next chapter is just like, whoa, you're okay, I'm okay, it was okay, let's meet up again for 1017. Thank you for watching, take care, and I'll catch you guys later. Bye.